So, went to DC. Got a little bit wild. Wasn't really anticipating all of that. But here we are. So, first off, 99.9% of the people there were totally peaceful. There was no issues. And there were a lot of things that I noticed weren't addressed by other individuals, such as the news and even other alternative media. So, one of the things that initially stood out to me and my friend that was with me was there was a lot of Asian people. A lot of Asian people. And it kind of took me by surprise, but I thought about it, and yeah, they're all there protesting, agreeing with Trump, and protesting against the Chinese Communist Party. There was big banners saying 80 million civilians of the Chinese citizens were killed by the Communist Party. You couldn't go more than 100 feet without running into an Asian handing you a pamphlet or a newspaper. Very passionate. Talk to people from Laos, Vietnam, Korea, obviously China, you know. And that's something that wasn't given a lot of attention. I heard a lot of things about white supremacy. That's also not true. There were very diverse crowd. There was people of every age and of every color. I talked to people from Florida, someone from Alaska, California. People came from all over the country. All of the citizens that live there, people from DC, the vendors, all the people that were selling everything, everybody was real hospitable. Everybody was really happy. They said that they didn't have any issues. Everyone was very friendly. All of the different people there at the group. So, we're all there at the, what's it called? I gotta keep my head in front of the light. I apologize. I'm still trying to get used to this whole thing. We're at the memorial, Freedom Plaza or whatever it is, near the obelisk. And Donald Trump comes out, gives his whole speech. The the speakers there weren't very good with the whole crowd and everything like that. You really couldn't hear everything. But he came through, gave his speech, and before he was finished, a guy in like kind of pea coat, real clean cut dude, starts yelling about how they're about to pass through the electoral college and we're missing it and we got to get to the Capitol building. He starts yelling it, and so people start going towards the Capitol building. And that's when the whole entire group migrated. And real beautiful. I'm going to post some videos of everybody walking through the streets. There was 2 streets full walking down through. So it was quite a thing. And there were barricades set up, obviously, with the police and all of that. The whole group came up to the barricades, and everything was all good for a little while. And then there were flashbangs starting to go off, and some CS gas with the smoke. They have the guns where they're spraying the pepper spray. So that started, and what really triggered everybody in the crowd, I suppose, was some 65-year-old, something like that, real old dude, comes through the beginning after the initial flashbangs and the pepper spray and all that stuff. They're like, clear a hole, and these guys are escorting out this old dude. And his lip is split all the way down through here. And he's missing teeth, and he's just pouring blood, and he's walking through like this. And he comes through and kind of S's through the crowd as these guys lead him through. And everybody sees this. And it was like there wasn't anything going on, and they started doing the pepper spray and the paintball bullets and all of this stuff. So, after that, they started ripping down the barricades, and they would lift it up and crowd surf it back over. And then people started using that to lean up and climb up on the buildings, right? And so the whole initial thing was go up top and occupy it, I suppose. I don't know what. There wasn't really a whole lot of planning and organizing, but there definitely were people that were instigating it, who were cheering on the crowds, not necessarily being the ones to push forward, but to kind of motivate people to push forward, which was a little bit sketchy. But, yeah, there was such a variety. It wasn't that you could necessarily point out particular individuals, but there were some that stood out kind of outside of the crowd, and they had a little bit more zest for instigation. So, definitely didn't expect all of that stuff to go down. I guess it's a historic moment in history, and I was glad that I was there for it, at least to a certain extent. I never set foot inside of the building, but I was right next to the doors when they smashed it through with the crutches. My friend stopped a guy from taking a dump on the Capitol, said that he'd put his boot to his forehead and he'd have to sit on it. So we definitely got into some arguments with people that were destroying things, and people that kind of have it a little bit misconstrued. And we already knew that the media was going to be against us for anything that happened. It was a mostly peaceful protest. I can assure you of that. And even though they want to demonize and say that it's terroristic and all of these other things, it was a very precise thing on a building that is owned by the American people. That's the whole of it. And so a few hundred people that got out of line and wanted to be vandals and wanted to destroy things, and they got heated. These are very temperamental times. And I think that needs to come into consideration as well. There was a lot of vindication for the BLM protesters and, the burning of cities and the setting up of autonomous zones throughout this whole period. So, when the left does it, they're heroes for protesting, and it's the voice of the unheard is anger and the protests, and now it's treachery and treason and terror and all of this. Now, the people stormed the Capitol building without Trump's express consent, okay? This was not a coup. The majority of the people that were there were wearing camo, and you're going to safely assume the majority of people own guns. I own guns. I'm not going there with any guns. My friend owns guns. He didn't bring a gun. Nobody there had guns. This was not a coup. This was not any type of attempt. This was just, I wouldn't even say example of civil disobedience, because the vast majority of people there were not disobedient. They did not break any laws. They did not do anything wrong, and now they're being demonized as terrorists. There's videos there that show. I posted how many people were there. The vast majority never went up the steps. Okay, I went up the steps to see what was happening and to get a better view. I did not break anything, and I condone the people that did. There were no fires. There was no graffiti. There was some damage done. There's a lot of people that are very upset, and I don't want to see this country tear itself apart, as previously discussed. I don't want to see it from either side, not from any side, not at all. It's unfortunate how everything played out, because now this beautiful event, this expression of being upset with the system, the status quo, being upset with the fact that our election hasn't been taken seriously and our votes have not been taken seriously. That was the whole point. People often mistake aggressive action for effective action. There was no organization. It was just a mob, and the mob is easily stirred by individuals who spark their emotions. So, when somebody in a crowd is like, they're trying to steal it from us, everyone's like, oh, what? We gotta go. We gotta do this. It's mob mentality. Ban the witch, so to speak. But a lot of Asians, a lot of ethnics all around. Hispanics for Trump, Asians for Trump, African Americans for Trump. It's not for the Republican Party. The Republican Party doesn't represent us, just like the Democratic Party doesn't represent us. They're delusional. It's part of the past. It's just what it is. At this point, I believe that that's made abundantly clear. So we got to see how things progress in the future. And we need to understand that we have a lot more in common with each other than the people that want us to fight.